Have you heard the term domain name dispute? Or, are you familiar with the domain name dispute? If not yet, then it's not a big problem though. This article will provide you some facts about the domain name dispute for you to better comprehend what the nature of this thing is and why does it surface, so you better read on. What is a domain name dispute? This is a common query that needs to be answered. Well, the domain name dispute is said to surface over domain names that may have been formerly held or over domain names that may be the same to a trademark or service over which you have the authority. Aside from this, there are some domain name dispute studies which show that oftentimes the domain name dispute arise over domain names that were formerly held and were not properly renewed and paid for. But how come that such domain name disputes arise? One reason for that is perhaps due to incorrect email addresses or let us say other mistakes and miscommunications. So once the domain name becomes accessible, another domain name consumer may legitimately own it regardless of whether you used to own it or not. In terms of handling these domain name disputes, it is interesting to know that all of these disputes may be handled through the ICE Uniform Domain Name Dispute Resolution Policy or UDRP. All of those official registrars are absolutely bound by these policies. And speaking of the UDRP, it is commonly noted that this process sets forth all the regulations for handling the domain name disputes including the negotiation and court moves. Under the UDRP, all the registrars in the top-level domain names such as .com, .net, and .org are subject to follow the Uniform Domain Name Dispute Resolution Policy. Under this matter, some types of trademark-based domain name disputes should be resolved by agreement, court move, or arbitration prior to the registrar's suspension and transfer of the domain names. Besides, the domain name disputes are also alleged to surface from abusive domain name registrations that may be addressed by accelerated administrative procedures that the owner of trademark rights performs through filing a complaint with an accepted domain name dispute resolution service contributor. The dispute service providers, as organizations permitted by the ICE, thus holds the responsibility to arbitrate the disputes. And in case of a domain name during a dispute, it is important to know that the domain names cannot be cancelled, suspended or even transferred during a domain name dispute.